Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome yet again to another episode of Dinner Guide. I'm going to be your host, Chef Andy. Today we are going to be doing two beautiful dishes with matoke. So I'm going to show you how to make an appetizer and how to make a beefy matoke dish with green beans. So without further ado, let's zoom into this side. I'm now going to introduce you to the ingredients we're going to be working with today, and I'm going to start with the front. To my left, that is a bit of olive oil. I've got a seeded green chili. So seeded meaning the seeds have been removed. This is to make sure it's not hot. Then I've got some salt, I've got some black pepper, I've got some chopped coriander, some paprika powder, some mayonnaise, some chopped white onion. I've got also some green beans fresh from the market. I've got some seeded and chopped tomatoes. So I took out the seeds on the inside, so this is just the shell. I've got some chopped red onions. I've got some nice beautiful beef here. I've got some parboiled matoke. This actually we made just before the show began, so this is just to aid us in just quickening the process because the show is limited. And then last but not least, I've got some cut up matoke here which we're actually going to play with for the appetizer. So we're now just going to take a short break. I'm going to allow you to just jump out there, just grab a piece of pen, grab your notebooks, and when we come back, we're just going to go right into it. See you in a bit. Welcome back again, ladies and gentlemen. I am Chef Andy. For those who missed our intro that was just a few minutes ago, we were just introducing the dishes that we are going to be playing with today. So without further ado, I'm just going to get my pan lit up and we're just going to recap on what you missed on the introduction bit. So basically what we're going to be doing today, we are going to be playing two ways matoke. So we're going to play with it first of all as an appetizer, and then we're also going to play with it as a main dish. So this is a nice, heartwarming, very beautiful seasonal dish that you can try at home. Very simple one-pot cooking. As I said, we have some matoke that was parboiled. So if you're going to be timing this recipe according to the time that we're doing the recipe on TV now, I recommend you parboil your matoke. So this goes in for about 15 to 20 minutes. Rinse it under cold running water. Just keep it aside, and then you just take it, bring it back again later. So we're just going to incorporate the meat in it. We're going to incorporate some vegetables, some seasoning, and then we're just gonna go straight for it. So without further ado, we're just gonna go straight into the first bit. So I'm just going to start by cutting our beef, and I'm just going to show you how we do that. So definitely a lot of people have issues with cutting the meat, a lot of questions about how best to cut your meat. I'm just going to now take you through it. So beautiful, nice chunks of beef there. So the first thing you need to be able to identify with your meat, you need to be able to identify the cut. You need to be able to look at the fat content. You need to be able to also pick the best meat for this dish. So for this, I recommend lean beef. You can see this is totally fatless, very beautiful meat. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take out some of that sinew on the edges there. So this is a bit of the tough bit that we don't want. This is a chewy bit that actually toughens when we stir fry. So this we're gonna take out now. And I'm also gonna take out this last chunk here. So we're gonna just keep those aside. All right, so I'm just going to show you now how to slice the beef. So this is one of the best ways to get your beef to tenderize, and the trick to it is actually in the cutting. So what happens is a lot of you have no clue or have tried to find ways of how best to cut meat. I always insist, if you're gonna cut it, cut along the grain, not across the grain. If you cut across the grain, your meat becomes tough, it becomes chewy, You cut it along the grain, you get this beautiful, soft, tender beef, and it actually makes your dish a little nicer to enjoy. So I'm just going to show you how to slice. So with a good sharp knife, you're just going to go to the meat now, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut at an angle, but we're gonna cut it diagonally. So I'll just show you how that's done. So I'm just going to work right to the sides like that, as you can see. So it's nice diagonal chunks. Remember, I'm not cutting right straight down towards the board. I'm cutting along the grain at an angle. Remember, this is actually the best way to cut any meat that you're planning to stir fry, meat that you're planning to cook really quick in a very short time. So this is actually the best trick to it. So I'm just gonna go for it. Right, our pan is nice and hot. We're just gonna put some oil in there in a little while. So we're just gonna cut all our meat at once. All right, so as I said earlier, the dish is a very beautiful dish. It's actually a recipe inspired by a bit of roots from Uganda, a bit of roots from Rwanda. An incorporation of green beans is something that you see towards the western part of Africa. It's actually a very common thing that you find a pairing of green beans and matoke. So for this particular one, you'll probably notice the two different colors. So this was parboiled in a bit of salty water, a teaspoon of turmeric, and a teaspoon of paprika powder. So it's a little fragrant, it's a little tasty on its own. Right, so we're just gonna finish cutting the meat now. And we're just gonna stir fry this. So this is just going to go into a hot pan. We're gonna toss it in, we're just gonna toss it around for about 4 to 5 minutes just to brown it, and then we're gonna take it off the pan. We're gonna rest it, and then we're just going to incorporate it into the dish a little later. So we're just gonna go for it. I'm just gonna grab my oil here. So vegetable oil, olive oil, whichever works for you, go for it. I insist, if you can't get olive oil, stick with vegetable oil. It's still a healthier option, and it's also a little cheaper. So we're just gonna put about 3 tablespoons of oil in there. So our pan is nice and hot. Remember, it's on low heat. I'm just gonna bring it up to medium now. And then while that heats up, we're just going to now take our matoke strips that we cut up earlier, and now I'm actually going to take you through the process of frying them. So the idea with this is we just want to fry them. So this is actually a dish that it's actually a best way to just give an appetizer of the same thing that's coming in the dish much later in your dinner evening. So it's a nice, beautiful way of just bringing the matoke 2 ways to your guests. So you bring it in as an appetizer, and then you come and complement it much later as a mains. So we're just gonna go jump right into it. Let's see. So I'm just gonna grab my lifter there. I'm gonna get a bowl here. So all we're going to do is we're just going to drain that in the sink behind me here. So very, very simple process. Basically, we're just going to rinse it, then I'm just going to pat it dry. We just want to get it dry. Remember, this is going into hot oil. You don't want to throw anything with water in oil. Remember, it might just flame. You might actually cause an accident. So I always insist, if you're gonna take something and drop it in hot oil, please make sure you pat it dry. Make sure it's not wet. Right. I'm just gonna give that a nice quick pat there. And then all I'm going to do is I'm just going to add some of that paprika in there. I'm gonna add some of that chopped coriander, some of the white onions there, and I'm just gonna give it a nice quick mix. So basically this stage, we're not trying to marinate it or to incorporate any flavors. This is just to give it a bit of a look. When it comes out, you're actually going to see it for yourselves. So it just actually aids in the appearance of the matoke as it comes out. So we're just gonna go right for it. I think our oil is nice and hot now. Right, we're just gonna bring it to medium, and I'm just gonna drop a piece in first so we can actually see how hot our oil is. So as you can see, it bubbles up really quick, so I insist, be careful when you throw the matoke in. Remember, it was sitting in water. And once again, please pat it dry before it goes into the oil. I'm just gonna throw all those, I'm just gonna go half and half, so I'm just gonna put half of that in first. Very simple, very easy. So we're gonna give that a few seconds to brown. While we do that, we're gonna put our hot pan back on the burner now. And we're gonna brown our meat. Remember, we're gonna just cook it halfway, let it sit aside, let it tenderize a little bit, and then we're gonna incorporate it back in our dish. So we're just gonna bring that back to heat. Just swirl your pan a little bit, get all that oil all around there. So as you can see from this end, matoke is nicely browning. That's about 2 to 3 minutes away, so we're gonna give that some time. In the meanwhile, as I always say, just always have a plate next to you. Always have a couple of serviettes or kitchen towel just to be able to drain it a little faster once it comes off the heat. So I'm just gonna leave that there, and then we're just gonna go in with the beef. Right, so small strip at a time. So I always just go with one strip at a time. Remember, you don't wanna, you're not trying to rush your meat. You just wanna sear it. So take your time. Just arrange it all around the board. Very simple. Right, so we're just gonna let that sear on one side. So remember, all we want to do is brown it on one side, and then we're gonna turn it around in 2 minutes. Alright, that's beautifully going now. We are now quickly gonna jump this way and check on our matoke fries. So as you can see, beautiful color coming out there. Bit of the paprika shining, a bit of red coming through there. So that's nice and crispy. So you want to fry those till they're just crispy. You're going to turn them around a few times. You're going to hear that crisp, that sound. Then you know it's about time to take them out. So we're going to take that first batch out of the oil there. We're going to set that aside. Right, so make sure to hold them onto the side of the pan. Get rid of that excess oil before lifting them off the oil. Right, simple. And we're gonna go with the second batch straight into the hot oil. Alright, so while that's going, we're just gonna give our meat a turn. So I'm gonna show you how to do that. So as you can see, the meat is now just going medium all around. You can see it by the strips of red. You know it's about time to turn. So I'm just gonna give that a quick toss. So remember, you're only browning the meat. You're not trying to cook it fully. Remember, we're gonna rest it and then we're gonna bring it back. So while this cooks and while the matoke goes, we're gonna go on a quick break, and when we come back, I'm gonna show you how to incorporate your matoke, your green beans, your tomatoes, your onions, and everything else into a dish. Don't move from your seat. Please, if you have missed something, we are going to come back and we're gonna do a recap of what you missed earlier. If you just joined in, we recommend that you don't miss the last bit of this show. There's a good thing coming at the end of it. See you in a little while. Gentlemen, welcome back from the short break. For those who missed out on what we were doing before we took a break, we were just searing the beef, so it's just now ready. We just took it out. We're just gonna give it a few minutes to rest. Remember, you don't wanna cook it right through because it gets tough, so we're just gonna give that a few seconds to rest. And we're not going to change the pan. We're gonna stick with the same pan we used earlier. Remember, all that browning in there is exactly the flavor we're looking for. So I'm just gonna turn the heat a little higher, and I'm going to just add a tiny bit of oil. So remember, it's a very quick dish, considering we had actually par cooked the matoke. So basically this is just the finishing process. So we're just gonna jump right into it. Just to reintroduce you to what we have in front of you. I have a bit of seeded chili here. I have a bit of chopped coriander, a bit of mayonnaise, a bit of paprika powder. And then for the vegetables, I have my red onions and some chopped tomatoes, some green beans. And this on this end here, this nice beautiful bowl is the matoke fries we did earlier. So I'm actually gonna show you how we're gonna plate this in a little bit. So our pan is nice and hot. We're just gonna go right for it. So I'm just gonna start with a bit of onions in there. And I'm gonna lower the heat a little bit. So basically, remember, you wanna incorporate all the flavors in one pan. You don't wanna change the pot. So we're just gonna keep going with it. So a bit of onion in there, a bit of tomatoes in there, and then a bit of paprika again. Remember, paprika, it's actually an essential part of the dish because it just brings out the beautiful characteristics of the beef. It combines the flavors of the chili and the coriander and the green beans. So actually, I would say I would not substitute the spice for anything else, but if you do decide to change it, if you do decide to make a variation of the recipe at home, you're more than welcome to. So those are nicely cooked. We're now just going to go in with the green beans. Right, I'm just gonna grab a spoon here. So we're gonna be cooking this at medium heat, and I'm just gonna keep mixing that. So very, very simple recipe, gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a very quick recipe, something you can actually do to order if you have everything prepped. So I'm just gonna show you how everything now incorporates. So we've just, for those who just tuned in, we've just been sauteing our onions and tomatoes. We threw in our green beans, a bit of paprika. I'm just going to add the chilies now. So these are seeded chilies. So the seeds have been taken out. This is to make sure it's not hot, it's just flavorful. I'm gonna go with those two as well. I'm gonna give that a quick toss. The aromas are lovely, ladies and gentlemen. Very, very good flavors coming out there. And then I'm just gonna add a tiny little pinch of coriander, fresh coriander. Right. Just gonna give that another toss. Then last but not least, we're gonna go in with our matoke. Remember, these were par cooked, so these are tender right through. All we want to do is coat them in the pan with the flavors in there already. So I'm just gonna drop them in here, like so. So we're just gonna go with about 6 pieces there. Maybe let's go with 7 pieces. Right, so very simple dish. We're just gonna give it a nice toss that around a little bit. So we're just gonna add a small amount of water in there. Remember, we just want to get all those flavors incorporated. Remember, you don't want the dish wet, you want it just nicely dry. Remember, it's actually a comfort food. You don't want it too saucy, you just want it right. So we're just gonna add a bit of water to our pan there. Just gonna give that a quick mix. So as you can see, the sauce, from the juices that were in the pan, from the meat, from the juices, from the tomatoes, the onions, the water is actually gonna incorporate that, and you're actually gonna see that. So it's actually going to be a nice saucy dish, but it's not going to be too saucy. Right, so you can see it's nicely colorful. Just gonna add a bit more coriander in there. Just gonna give that a quick mix. Alright, beautiful flavors coming from our pan there. Right, just to finish it off, definitely a bit of black pepper, about a pinch. A bit of salt, also a small pinch. Right, I'm gonna give that a nice, beautiful, quick mix. And then last but not least, we're gonna bring back our beef. So just gonna all go into one pot like that. So very simple dish, something you can combine to order. If you have pre-cooked bananas, you have some meat, just sear it. A little quick dish, you know, something you can combine in a very short time. You can make it for lunch as well. I'm just gonna give that a nice toss. Right. Right, ladies and gentlemen, and that is our beefy matoke. As I said, that's already cooked. We're just gonna turn off the heat now. We're just gonna give that a few minutes to rest on the side there. And we're not gonna waste any time. We're just gonna go right into plating. So I'm just gonna show you some tricks of plating your matoke or playing with your matoke two ways. We're just gonna grab our plates. Right, we're gonna clear those. So very quick dish, very simple dish, something you can try at home, something you can make just slightly ahead of time. As I said, it's not something you need to spend so much time putting effort into. If you have your par-cooked matoke, sear your meat about 5 minutes, green beans in there, toss them a little bit, and it's all done. So I'm just going to start with the avocado fries. I'm just gonna grab my tongs. So very, very simple technique of plating. So this is just standard mayonnaise, nothing fancy in here. So all I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna give it a nice mix. Then I'm gonna add my last bit of coriander. Give that a mix. So this is just basically for visual color, it's just for appearance. So all I'm going to do is I'm gonna go with a dollop on a plate, like so. And then I'm gonna go with another one on that side. Alright, just gonna put a bit more in there, a bit more in there. Simple stuff, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm just gonna show you a few techniques of how you can play around with your plating. So I'm just gonna play with a spoon, the same spoon I use. So I'm just gonna grab my spoon and I'm just gonna go around like that. I'm just gonna turn it again and I'm just gonna go around once again. Very simple technique of plating. Just gonna grab a bit of that leftover coriander all on the plate. Simple. Just gonna grab my matoke fries right on the plate. As I said, ladies and gentlemen, something really light that you can serve just ahead of time, just to buy some time before serving the main course or your dinner. Very good for kids, very healthy dish. Remember, this is a very good substitute for having fries as well. So if you're very accustomed to having potato fries, this is not a bad way to actually substitute that. Matoke is a little healthier for you. It's got less carbohydrates. It's actually much nicer. It tastes much nicer after it comes off the oil. So as you can see, very simple dish. So that you can actually be able to serve as an aperitif. You can serve it as a snack. You can actually pack it and carry it to work, right? So we're just gonna go with plating the main dish now. So I'm just gonna start with a nice, beautiful chunks of matoke. So I'm just gonna go all the way in, start in the center and just build your way up. Remember, you can choose to serve this any other way. You can serve it with a side of rice. You can serve it with, you can actually have it with maybe a couple of bread pieces. You can actually serve it even as a soup. So basically, if you're gonna serve this and you wanna serve it as a soup, you're just going to add a little more water in there, let it cook into a sauce so that you actually have a nice base into it, and it actually makes a very good substitute for a starter. So I'm just gonna finish plating that off. So give that a nice mix, get all that sauce incorporated in there, and we're just gonna go for it. So I'm just gonna go right on the sides with that. Remember, you can plate this any way you like. You don't have to follow my lead. Just plate it anyhow you feel, whichever way makes you happy, whichever way you feel your guests are gonna enjoy. And there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Simple, easy, quick to make beefy matoke with matoke fries on the side. As we said, this is something that you can have as a comfort meal, something you can have in that cold season, something you can just have as, you know, just something you can even watch a movie to. It's been a pleasure cooking with you today. My name is Chef Andy. You have been watching BrandPlus TV and the show is Dinner Guide. Do tune in on the next episode where we continue to do amazing things with local ingredients. Please follow our Facebook page, leave your comments, Share your views. Tell us what you're looking forward to. Tell us what you want to see on the show. Maybe tell us something you're interested in. Leave your questions with us. And it's been a pleasure, ladies and gentlemen. So from here, from the studio, from me, Chef Andy, have a good night. Enjoy.